C'est pas déjà le prendre en marquage. Moi j'allais le prendre.
Munoz, Kamada, Wharton and Mitchell, with Nketiah, McNeil and Mateta as the attacking three. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff, Everton against Crystal Palace. Everton take on Crystal Palace on opening weekend of the new season at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and for David Moyes' side it is Pickford in goal with a back four of Roll, Tarkowski, Branthwaite and Mikolenko. Armstrong and Hackney are the two holder midfielders, with Ndai, Dewsbury Hall and George as the attacking midfield three playing behind Barry. For Crystal Palace it is Henderson in goal with a back three of Camvo, Richards and Riyad. The four across the middle are Munoz, Kamada, Wharton and Mitchell, with Nketiah, McNeil and Mateta as the attacking three. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff, Everton against Crystal Palace. Everton take on Crystal Palace on opening weekend of the new season at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and for David Moyes' side it is Pickford in goal with a back four of Roll, Tarkowski, Branthwaite and Mikolenko. Armstrong and Hackney are the two holder midfielders, with Ndai, Dewsbury Hall and George as the attacking midfield three playing behind Barry. For Crystal Palace it is Henderson in goal with a back three of Camvo, Richards and Riyad. The four across the middle are Munoz, Kamada, Wharton and Mitchell, with Nketiah, McNeil and Mateta as the attacking three. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff, Everton against Crystal Palace. Everton take on Crystal Palace on opening weekend of the new season at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and for David Moyes' side it is Pickford in goal with a back four of Roll, Tarkowski, Branthwaite and Mikolenko. Armstrong and Hackney are the two holder midfielders, with Ndai, Dewsbury Hall and George as the attacking midfield three playing behind Barry. For Crystal Palace it is Henderson in goal with a back three of Camvo, Richards and Riyad. The four across the middle are Munoz, Kamada, Wharton and Mitchell, with Nketiah, McNeil and Mateta as the attacking three. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff, Everton against Crystal Palace. Everton take on Crystal Palace on opening weekend of the new season at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and for David Moyes' side it is Pickford in goal with a back four of Roll, Tarkowski, Branthwaite and Mikolenko. Armstrong and Hackney are the two holder midfielders, with Ndai, Dewsbury Hall and George as the attacking midfield three playing behind Barry. For Crystal Palace it is Henderson in goal with a back three of Camvo, Richards and Riyad. The four across the middle are Munoz, Kamada, Wharton and Mitchell, with Nketiah, McNeil and Mateta as the attacking three. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff, Everton against Crystal Palace. Everton take on Crystal Palace on opening weekend of the new season at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and for David Moyes' side it is Pickford in goal with a back four of Roll, Tarkowski, Branthwaite and Mikolenko. Armstrong and Hackney are the two holder midfielders, with Ndai, Dewsbury Hall and George as the attacking midfield three playing behind Barry. For Crystal Palace it is Henderson in goal with a back three of Camvo, Richards and Riyad. The four across the middle are Munoz, Kamada, Wharton and Mitchell, with Nketiah, McNeil and Mateta as the attacking three. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff, Everton against Crystal Palace. Everton take on Crystal Palace on opening weekend of the new season at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and for David Moyes' side it is Pickford in goal with a back four of Roll, Tarkowski, Branthwaite and Mikolenko. Armstrong and Hackney are the two holder midfielders, with Ndai, Dewsbury Hall and George as the attacking midfield three playing behind Barry. For Crystal Palace it is Henderson in goal with a back three of Camvo, Richards and Riyad. The four across the middle are Munoz, Kamada, Wharton and Mitchell, with Nketiah, McNeil and Mateta as the attacking three. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff, Everton against Crystal Palace. Everton take on Crystal Palace on opening weekend of the new season at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and for David Moyes' side it is Pickford in goal with a back four of Roll, Tarkowski, Branthwaite and Mikolenko. Armstrong and Hackney are the two holder midfielders, with Ndai, Dewsbury Hall and George as the attacking midfield three playing behind Barry. For Crystal Palace it is Henderson in goal with a back three of Camvo, Richards and Riyad. The four across the middle are Munoz, Kamada, Wharton and... Well, it's a very warm welcome and thank you for joining us on the opening day of the new Premier League season, and we are underway at Hill Dickinson Stadium as Everton take on Crystal Palace. Two sides that will be certainly looking for, Palace to maintain the fortunes they had of last season, having a superb season, culminating in that European success, up against an Everton side who probably just finished a few places below where they would have liked to in the league, but certainly there's always the promise of a new season. David Moyes has been trying to get as many numbers in, and there are some decent signings for Everton over the summer, as indeed there are for Palace now under, of course, new manager in Pierre Sarge. So we'll see how it all plays out this afternoon. It's myself, Paul Schmakovic and Joe Pearson taking it. Actually, Joe, it's actually quite hard to call this one, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is indeed. I do wonder how Crystal Palace are going to unfair this season, of course, with those European spots. As we know, plenty of players have been complaining about how many games they sort of play in the season, and it can make it a bit difficult going into them with all the tired legs for Everton as well. Like you said, good signings coming in. Hayden Hackney, it'll be interesting to see how he sort of sits into the roles of what David Moyes sort of wants him to do. As we know, he sort of is that sort of Cam, the central attacking midfielder. He likes to push up and be alongside and give an option out there. So I think he'll do that for Everton today.
He certainly will be looking to try and cut out as many passes. He's just done that for the first time there as a loose ball was being played in midfield, and Hackney does cut it out, finds Mikalenko, who then deflects his ball off the mask-wearing Daniel Munoz. And that will be a throw to Everton. So just to remind you very quickly, the 2-11s, Jordan Pickford in goal for Everton, a back four of Merlin Roll, James Tarkowski, Jared Branthwaite and Vitaly Mikalenko. Harrison Armstrong and Hayden Hackney are the two holder midfielders, with Ilman and Dye, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall and Tyreek George as the attacking midfield three, playing behind Tieno Barry. As for Crystal Palace, it is Dean Henderson in goal, a back four of JD Cambo, Chris Richards and Chadley Riyad. Then it's four in midfield, Daniel Munoz, Daichi Kamada, Adam Wharton and Tyreek Mitchell, with Eddie Nketiah, the returning back to Everton, Dwight McNeil and Jean-Philippe Mateta as the attacking three. Interesting that McNeil makes the 11 this afternoon, but the player that went the other way, of course, Brennan Johnson, is only on the bench. I'll get your thoughts on Johnson in a second, because his career has taken a bit of an interesting sort of turn, really, from when he moved from Forest to Spurs. But it is Palace on the attack down the right-hand side. Munoz just losing his balance, but the ball still kept alive, and then it's flicked up in the air by Mateta. Was he pushing on Hackney as he was trying to turn? Yes, he was, says our referee Paul Tierney. It's an interesting one with Johnson when you think of his move to Spurs, and ever since then he's had a very short and unsuccessful time at Palace. Now he ends up at Everton. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see yet again how he slots into that. There's all sorts of different sort of systems that people like to work out, so it's interesting to see how he sort of slots in. A mistake at the back though, and suddenly Palace are in at the back. It's over towards it. Mateta, oh, he's blazed it over from 5 yards. That should be 1-0 to the Eagles. It was a loose ball just pumped up in the air, and a very poor header back towards his own goal. I'm just going to see if that was Tarkowski with the header. I think it was. He just gets it all wrong. He didn't realise how far away he was from his own goal. And that, credit to Branthwaite for getting back and blocking Mateta, but that should be 1-0. Yeah, it should be indeed. A mistake at the back from Everton and led on to the left-hand side. I think it was Eddie Nketiah who was up there, but he took his time. He sort of looked to sort of go for the shot, and then he saw that Mateta had slipped, and he was like, no, I should definitely go for the shot now. And then he was in two minds again, and by that time, a little bit too late, but definitely should have been 1-0. Yeah, well, Everton responding now with a bit of attacking possession themselves. The ball in from the left-hand side from Mikalenko's only partially cleared, and it's played back into midfield, and it should just about get away here for Palace. Though Tyreek Mitchell will chase it, he won't be able to keep it in play. It's out for a throw, which Merlin Roll wants to take as quickly as possible. Bright start there, Palace, with that early chance inside the first 3 minutes. Plenty of other action on our service as well across the EFL and indeed in the Premier League. There are two other games being played right now. Ipswich against Sunderland and Nottingham Forest against Leeds. Those two other games are still goalless, and if you weren't aware, in the early Premier League games today, a surprise as newly promoted Hull City deservedly beating Manchester United by 2-0. We've still got Brentford against Spurs to come at 5:30 this evening. Anything happening in the Championship games, we'll let you know. The early results, 2-2 between Birmingham City and Bristol City. Lincoln 1, Portsmouth 3, and the Millwall beating 10-man Norwich by 3-0. Then Palace win the ball back in midfield here now with Wharton. He plays it in towards Mateta, straight back to Kamada. Kamada perhaps holding on to that ball for too long. He may get a free kick. I thought there could have been a foul on him, but even if there isn't, it's a bit of a late challenge from Armstrong, but Kamada still had enough time to play that one down the channel. Yeah, he did indeed. Just took his time there onto that left-hand side. Should have fired it a little bit earlier. There's plenty of bodies getting forward for Crystal Palace within that attack. I think it is somewhat of a strong challenge from Armstrong. It may have just clipped, the ball may have just clipped him a little bit, allowing the referee, he had a good clear view of it, allowing that sort of play to continue on, but nothing came of it. Good challenge in the end by Armstrong. Yeah, decent challenge from Armstrong, but 5 minutes on the clock, and it is Palace who are seeing more of the ball in their all-change white kit with the sort of home stripe, I should say. The home colours just as a stripe across the front. Everton is always blue and white, but here come the Toffees now with a bit of space down the left-hand side, and now for Tyreek George. He plays one across the 6-yard box. It's a very low and flat ball. Takes a slight nick off Camber, but I think Henderson was going to get there anyway. Now he rolls it out quickly for Kamada. Palace are not wasting any time in trying to get forward, but Everton, plenty of bodies in midfield, so Tyreek Mitchell having to play this one back towards Riyad. Now it's with Chris Richards. Closed down by Barry. Square to Riyad. Everton playing a very high offside line. So, certainly they're going to try and push Palace as far back into their own half as they can. Here comes Camvo now down the right-hand side, getting up towards the halfway line. That's offside, has just backed off a little bit, but Palace still can't send too many diagonal balls forward, having to just hold it up in midfield. It's the former Everton man, McNeil, playing it back towards Camvo. Richards over towards Riyad on the left-hand side. He tread on the ball there, almost lost possession as he was being closed down by Ndai, but he just about manages to go back towards his goalkeeper. Henderson was being closed down, but he does get a clearance up towards the halfway line. Both managers having their hands up in the air. I think it has gone the way of Palace, though. Just getting a slight nick off the back of Vitaly Mikalenko. Now we're getting another reverse angle. As you say, there was a little bit of a stumble there from Mateta, and it's almost like he's still recovering from that when he suddenly gets the pass from Nketiah.
Yeah, I think Nketiah should have probably used him more as a bit of a decoy there and tried the shot at the near post to try and catch out Jordan Pickford there, but he didn't. He sort of let Mateta get back up towards his feet, and by that point Mateta probably wasn't expecting the ball, so had to quickly sort of react towards it and skied it over the crossbar. But better from Crystal Palace.
Yeah, better from Palace. An early goal to tell you about in a London derby in the Championship. It's West Ham 0, Charlton 1. So there may be some more soap opera shenanigans at the London Stadium this season, but here come Palace now with the ball over towards the right-hand side into the penalty area. There were two men waiting at the edge of the 6-yard box, but they couldn't find him with a pass, and now Everton with the chance to go on a counter-attack, but it looks like it's either been a foul or potentially the ball's gone out of play for a throw. Merlin Roll wanted to start Everton on a quick counter-attack. It's actually been given as a free kick to Everton after all of that. So you can see the current Prime Minister sat up in the stands there, Mr. Burnham. He's a Scouser Everton fan. I'm sure he'll be hoping that his side can get a decent start this afternoon. Certainly it's been Palace inside the first 7 minutes that have looked the better team. Decent challenge there from Camera, but he obviously 8 minutes into the game, it is quite early, but there just seems to be an edginess to Palace that they really want to get into Everton, and the home side just haven't quite lived up to that yet. Yeah,
putting on a little bit of pressure at the moment, not allowing them sort of time on the ball to get the ball rolling. Everton for me seem to be using this left hand side quite a bit with Tyreek George and his sort of paceness, and then they seem to just sort of be whipping it inside the box. Whether for Crystal Palace it's just the move from sort of either end using Nketiah, McNeil, and they've got that support from their midfield as well, so they're sort of overloading Everton with quite a bit of pressure at the moment.
Well, they are, and barring that one chance, they've not really done anything to test Pickford. In fact, that one chance didn't test Pickford either. It was over the bar, but it's now played back all the way towards the opposite number, Dean Henderson. Of course, both of these goalkeepers very much in the England picture. Pickford still the number one, but Henderson certainly being tipped as the future replacement, alongside, of course, Leeds' new goalkeeper, James Trafford. That's an awful clearance there from Dean Henderson. I mean, that was commentator's curse in live time. Literally, I just finished saying the words about how Henderson's likely to be the future England number one, and he played a terrible ball out from his own penalty area. But he got away with it. Palace is still in possession. It's now with Riyad on the left-hand side. Oh, he's dwelt on the ball as well. Palace don't want to be too slow in playing out from the back. It's now with Kamada, finding Camvo. Munoz has dropped a little bit deeper this time. Palace still in possession, but no option to get this ball further forward. It's now gone back to Richards. Over towards Riyad. Looking up, but again, trying to be too elaborate here. Palace are just quite happy to keep possession. As I say, Everton, of course, having a bit of a disappointing. I say disappointing. Their expectations are always very high amongst Evertonians that they're going to have a good season. Palace, of course, after this game, their next one is going to be against Manchester City. That's the live game on Friday night. But now Palace have found some space in midfield, and Mateta at the edge of the area. It's teed up, a strike coming in from Dwight McNeil. He'd love to score against his old club, but his effort was charged down. I think he just took one touch too many. Now Tyreek George has it here for Everton, switching the play from right to left. Not the best ball to Ndai. He had to really wait for that ball to come down for him, so the counter-attack has gone, but Everton at least still have a bit of attacking possession. Merlin Rowe. I think initially we thought he might be playing in a right back. I'm not quite sure if he actually has gone into that role. It's quite hard to tell because, as Joe mentioned, Everton have hardly had any possession on the right hand side. It all seems to be on the left so far, and here they are on the left again with George getting that ball into Mikalenko, trying to outrun Camvo, but that's not going to be an easy thing to do, and Camvo easily getting that ball back towards Henderson. So coming up to 11 minutes on the clock. It is goalless here, unofficial independent off-tube studio commentary.
But yeah, Palace still looking the more accomplished side. They're trying to get forward again down the left-hand side with Mitchell. Back into Wharton. Wharton then trying a long ball towards the edge of the area. Easily dealt with though by Mikalenko. But yeah, it's just still not quite clicking for Everton in midfield.
Yeah, it isn't. Like I said, they're sort of being overrun at the moment with the support from Crystal Palace's midfield. So they're losing sort of the midfield battle at the moment, which is probably why they're having to play it sort of down the left-hand side.
Yeah, well now Palace are on the attack. It's a ball in from Mitchell. It gets through to Munoz. His effort is straight at the goalkeeper. I think that has gone out for a corner. Pickford trying his best to act out like he'd made the save and kept it in. And I think they've taken his word for it, although it looked to me like it may have just gone over the line. But we play on. The ball's cleared back into midfield, and Palace are back in possession with Mitchell under pressure from Ndiaye and from Roll. Mitchell does just about hold them off initially, although eventually Ndiaye does win the ball back for Everton. So with Branthwaite now towards Hackney, all the way back now towards Mikalenko here on the left-hand side. George just about gets away from Munoz. There's a challenge there from Wharton as well. But George and a combination of him and Armstrong just about keep Everton in possession. And now it's with Ndiaye going through the middle. And there's a runner here into the penalty area. It's Roll. He tees it up. Back to Ndiaye. Oh, it's straight at the goalkeeper. It's a good save. It's palmed up in the air before it's nodded clear. And out of nowhere, Everton suddenly creating a decent chance.
Yeah, indeed. Lovely run round the back there from Ndiaye. And nobody seemed to sort of track him. They all seemed to look at him running inside the box, and nobody then made the move towards him. Finally, I think it was Richards made the move towards him to try and block that ball out. And by that time, it was already a bit late. And Ndiaye had managed to get that shot off, but straight at Henderson. Good palm away from him. He just looked back up into the air, but Everton still maintain possession.
Everton do maintain possession. It's with Armstrong now at the edge of the area. He's got a runner on the left-hand side in George. George playing it back to Armstrong, trying to find space for the shot, perhaps just giving himself a bit too much to do, but the ball is still kept alive here now with Hackney. Mateta is back there covering for Palace, and the Everton attack breaks down, but they are still in possession down the left-hand side here, pushing into the final third with George. Just holding it up, playing it back towards Hackney. Now Mikalenko to Hayden Hackney again, being closed down here by McNeil. So back on the halfway line here now with Branthwaite and Tarkowski towards Roll, who is in that right-back role after all. The ball for Everton in midfield, but it's still very slow at the moment. Palace can see everything coming a mile off. Everton now trying to move things over towards the left-hand side here with George. To the middle now for Dewsbury Hall. Not seen too much of him inside the first 13 minutes. He's now with Tarkowski on the right-hand side. He spots Ndiaye. Being well marked, but he plays a quick 1-2 with Roll. He gets it back and then he treads on the ball. He couldn't quite keep possession after that. It's then Wharton playing it in towards Mateta, who then tries to find McNeil. Just too many bodies in the way, and they're starting to cancel each other out a little bit now. Yeah,
they are indeed. It's a good move from Everton at the moment, but Crystal Palace sort of staying strong at the back, well connected, good back line, sort of blocking Everton out, so they're having to move around the ball, try and find more spaces as well, which they're then struggling with because Crystal Palace are then getting back in numbers, blocking out them sort of spaces that Everton are hoping might be made available.
Well, here come Everton now, and there's some space down the right for Roll, but he was being blocked all the way to the line. Good covering there in the end from Tyrick Mitchell. I think it has just gone the way of Palace. I think that's just gone out for a goal kick. We're seeing another replay of that Ndiaye chance. I mean, he's a right footer shooting from the right-hand side of the box at the keeper's near post. I would expect Henderson to save that.
Yeah, indeed. I said he's just sort of inside the box there. Nobody goes to close him down. Richards finally does make the move towards him as the ball's cut back, and it's a good shot, it's a good save, and then we see down the other end as well, Munoz has one straight at Pickford as well, so they're both basically the exact same.
Pretty much,
they, really?
they're very much carbon copies. They're strikes at the goalkeeper, straight at the goalkeeper at his near post as well, so pretty much he can do that as a standing save, but he still had to make sure that it is palmed over the line. Here's Kamada now for Palace. Space here in midfield for McNeil, goes out towards the right-hand side for Munoz. McNeil back to Daniel Munoz. Options for a ball into the penalty area for the time being, so it's rolled back towards the halfway line. Now with Camvo to Kamada, and then back towards Wharton. Towards the left-hand side, there's a man over there as well if they can find him, but just a little bit too slow on the ball there was Chadli Riyad. It's been one back now by Ndiaye. Plays it to Barry, back to Ndiaye, and there's a runner down the right-hand side in the former Merlin Roll, but he's played the ball ahead of himself here. Mitchell is tracking, and then Roll tries to play an early ball in towards the penalty area. It's well cut out though by Campbell, and very good, very calm control there from Richards. He was just about to get closed down. He just made a bit of a step over, made sure that his side were in possession, and now here come Crystal Palace pushing forward down the right-hand side. Half a chance for Kamada, but he couldn't keep possession. It's now played back by Munoz towards Camvo. Camvo just going square towards Kamada. 16 minutes on the clock. It is goalless. It's goalless in the other two Premier League games. Couple of other goals in the Championship. It's now Blackburn 0, Middlesbrough 1, Preston 0, Wolves 1. And it's also Wrexham 0, Watford 1. So there's a couple of more than a few goals, early goals there in the Championship. It's Palace still maintaining possession here inside Everton territory. Munoz into Wharton. He's blocked by Armstrong, but he gets the ball straight back and he plays it into the penalty area. What a ball this is! It must be! Oh, it's off the post from Nketiah. That should be 1-0, and that is surely a back pass there from Hackney. I was sure that he just left that ball there. But in the end, the referee hasn't given a back pass, but what a ball that is. Ooh, I just wonder whether or not Mitchell was offside. I think he was okay. And actually, credit to Pickford, he palms that onto the post. Yeah,
he does indeed, but a lovely touch there from Mitchell. Just takes it down, real comfort, and just tries the shot towards that far post. Pickford with a good hand, turns it onto the post, but I think he might have just been offside. Tarkowski was sort of the last defender, and he seemed
very, very tight. You're absolutely right. It was very tight. But Everton have gone up the other end in the meantime, and Roll finding Ndiaye, and now it's with Armstrong square to Mikolenko, around 30 yards out from Palace's goal. Down the left-hand side now for Tyreek George, breaking into the penalty area. Then he hoofs one up in the air. I think he was trying to go for goal, but gets his foot underneath that and ends up more like a rugby conversion, just sending that one many, many yards. And of course, they have had rugby league at this stadium, so I suppose that does analogy that just about makes sense. David Moyes with a bit of a round of applause there towards his goalkeeper, because of course, whether it was offside or not, it was a lovely ball from Wharton as well, and the initial control, and actually the shot from Nketiah was all very good.
Yeah, it was indeed. It looks to be a certain goal, doesn't it, for Crystal Palace? And I think they're just getting a bit unlucky now. They've had two that look to be certain, one with Mateta and one now with Nketiah, who just takes it comfortably down. It's that first touch, it's just so nice, and then the shot is good as well, but good palm away. It's a really good save from Pickford just to turn it onto the post. But Crystal Palace, both sides at the moment, creating chances, just not converting them into goals.
They're not, but they're trying their luck again now with an early ball from Kamada down the right-hand side in towards Mateta. He's gotten into a bit of a tumble there with Tarkowski, and in the end, Paul Tierney, our referee, decided there was a foul there on the Everton captain. I'm sorry, I'm very happy to see that, because it just takes the sting out of this latest bit of Palace attacking possession. Free kick to Everton at the edge of their own penalty area. Benches for Everton, it's Alcaraz, Beto, Dibbling, Garner, Johnson, Keane, O'Brien, Patterson and Travers, the goalkeeper. It's a decent bench now for Everton. There's decent cover in all positions. As far as Palace, it's Gussand, Hughes, Khalili, Larson, Mingueza, Pino, Sosa, Tomiyasu and Benitez, the goalkeeper. So again, there's strength and depth in these two squads now.
Yeah, there is indeed. Of course, you talk about the signings as well. For Everton, Christian Norgård isn't fit as of yet. Hopefully he will be. Of course, James Garner is still recovering from a hernia operation, and Iro Bunham as well, out for at least just this game, so should be back soon.
Yeah, they'll be hoping that he can get back into the team soon. Palace are back on the attack down the left here, but the ball in from Mitchell on this occasion was just a little bit too short. It's cleared back into midfield, but Adam Wharton, he's getting into the game as well now. There was talk, of course, that maybe, well, not there was, there still is talk that maybe Wharton could be on the move in this window. And I'm not surprised, because he does have all the ability that you think that a big six side will be looking for.
Oh, indeed, yeah, of course, we've seen that Elliot Anderson has gone from Nottingham Forest. Of course, he went for a lot of money over to Manchester City, yeah, 130 million. Of course, City have just sort of sold the likes of Tijani Reinders and Rodri as well, so I do wonder if maybe they're looking to sort of strengthen that midfield as well.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. And so with Spurs seemingly signing anything from Manchester City that isn't getting into the first team right now, City, ironically, have actually got some transfer kitty to be working with, as opposed to just sort of spending the money that's they always do. They can actually try and replace some of the players, and of course it will be an interesting season for Manchester City as well under Enzo Maresca. Certainly the early signs, I mean, the Community Shield isn't exactly a full picture of everything, but they weren't good on the day. And yeah, in terms of trying, of course, they have had a number of players out, at the World Cup in the summer, so it may take a couple of weeks for some of them to get back into sort of full flight. But we'll wait and see as Everton fighting for it in midfield. Could have been a free kick there to the home side. In fact, there will be a free kick there to the home side. I think the referee wanted to give Everton the advantage. And now I don't know, he's pointing to his hand there, Paul Tinney. I don't know if he's saying that there was a handball as well as the foul, but Everton certainly would have preferred that move to carry on rather than having a free kick on the halfway line.
Yeah, indeed. I thought Adam Wharton was asking for a free kick to his own team then, because he was sort of hands up into the referee, sort of asking for something. I thought, is the referee pulling it back just for a foul on Crystal Palace, or is he pulling it back for a foul on Everton? But he's pulled it back for the foul on Everton, and that free kick hasn't really gone anywhere. It's just gone back towards Pickford. Everton at the moment, they can't really channel it down the middle. They're having to channel it out wide, and Crystal Palace is sort of dealing with that nicely. They're allowing Everton some time on the ball and some space to sort of move it around, but getting the ball inside the area for Everton at the moment seems to be a little bit of a worry for them.
Yeah, it's certainly, as we're approaching the 22nd minute now, Palace have found their feet going forward. Everton are still struggling to, but that long ball for Tyreek George suddenly wakes things up in Everton's final third. The ball played over towards the penalty area, takes a deflection. That is out for a throw to Everton on the left-hand side. Kamada back there covering. You know that Vitaly Mykolenko, the Ukrainian international, does have a long throw on him. He is now trying to get as much of a run-up as he can. It's not too much of a problem here at Hill Dickinson Stadium. There is plenty of space here between the touchline and the advertising boards. Of course, all the new rules in terms of time wasting don't apply to attacking throws. Attacking throws are treated almost like corners, so you do have that little bit more leeway with the referee in terms of preparing for it. But the long throw for Mykolenko is nodded clear and then volleyed clear by Wharton, well over the halfway line, where Pickford is quickly out to keep his side in possession. It's with Roll now going square towards Hayden Hackney. Middlesbrough now out towards Mykolenko on the left-hand side. George playing it back into Hackney. So looking to try and play an early ball at this stage. Back heel there from Armstrong down the left-hand side. Won't be kept in there to Richards for Palace that gets there first. Out for a throw to Everton. Mykolenko is wanting to take it, but I think he's getting a bit frustrated by the lack of options. Not enough players in blue pushing forward. Now the throw from Mykolenko does go towards Armstrong. And then there's a block from Wharton. At least 3 Everton players had their arms up for handball. Referee says no, but then Palace give the ball away almost immediately. And it's now with Ndiaye at the edge of the area. He skips away from Cambo. He's going all the way towards the line. He almost got brought down. Then he plays the ball across the 6-yard box, which is blocked by Chris Richards, and it's out for an Everton corner. But if Everton are going to get something in this game, you just get the feeling that potentially Ndiaye is going to have to do something out of nothing.
Yeah, lovely footwork there, and managed to escape the challenge of Canvo, who had to be careful because he sort of came diving in on him there, and he's actually very lucky that Ndiaye doesn't go down. He does clip him somewhat, but Ndiaye
I think if Ndiaye had hit the deck there, the referee would have been forced to give a penalty, because I think that there was a foul, and well, there would have been a foul, and I don't think that there would have been any kind of saviour from that. But Ipswich have taken the lead against Sunderland. We'll just see this corner out as the ball goes towards the back post. It's punched clear by Henderson. It was a decent ball into the penalty area. It's still kept alive here by Dewsbury Hall. On the right-hand side of the box, he plays it a long way back, and then it's hooked back into the penalty area here by Roll, headed across the 6-yard box. Oh, was there a foul inside the 6-yard box there? Certainly there's a suggestion from Branthwaite that he was kicked while he was up in the air. The referee has stopped play, I think maybe for an offside, as that move was building up. But in any case, we'll have Joe dissect it all, because we're over the halfway mark in this first half. Now 24 minutes gone. It is goalless between Everton and Palace at Hill Dickinson Stadium. It'll be Joe to take us through to half-time. Yeah, it's Branthwaite who is down inside of the area. We'll see it again. It's towards that far post. Well, they're calling for an offside. I didn't see. Oh yeah, now that's the offside that we do need to see. And yeah, Canvo just kicking sort of the back of the legs of Branthwaite as he goes to it. And we have seen them being given before, and I feel like maybe if Branthwaite wasn't offside, I think VAR might have had to have a look at that one. I think so. I mean, when you consider that sometimes a player clearing the ball and then suddenly having his foot taken away from him, that can be given as a penalty as he's trying to clear the ball and then an opposition player gets in his way. I mean, that, if anything, looked worse. I would say that there was certainly scope for a foul there. But as we say, there was an offside in the midst of all of that, and Branthwaite's up to his feet, but he's still hobbling quite a bit.
Yeah, of course, no Ismail Sarr for Crystal Palace. There is talks of him moving away, but Crystal Palace, of course, Lacroix left, went to Chelsea, and they're now in talks of Disasi coming from them, so maybe strengthening up that back line. Of course, today they're playing with that 3 at the back. Maybe they do need somebody a bit like Disasi just to come in and organise a few things as well.
Yeah, I would say if Disasi's available for sides outside of the Big Six, I think most teams in the Premier League would be quite happy to have him. We are having a VAR check, and it is actually for this potential penalty. Now, it's been a good minute or so since we had that decision. Now they're checking for the offside. I mean, the offside was given as the first decision on that occasion. Now they're going to double check to see if it definitely is offside. I mean, looking at it with the naked eye, it looks to me like it probably is, but depending on where that last defender is, where his shoulder is and everything else. But if they've decided that it's onside, I think the kick from Cambo is enough to say that there is a penalty there.
Yeah, indeed. It's just this last defender. It's very tight. If he is onside, it's about half a knee. Is basically what's going to happen here. From that angle, we can't really tell. It's sort of the wrong line to sort of look at. It's a good header back across though. Branthwaite, if he just manages to stay on side, will probably be given a penalty kick here. They're having a very, very long look at this one to make sure that they get this absolutely spot on. Of course, Tim Wood is the man in the he's the fourth official. It's offside. Yeah, it has been given as an offside then.
So after all of that talk from Howard Webb on various platforms over the last few weeks, we're not going to have as much time on VAR. They have actually just spent a good few minutes there looking at a penalty decision where they actually got it right first time. They said it was offside to begin with, so they started doubting themselves, double, triple, quadruple checking everything before they decided that it was actually an offside. There was a goal for Leeds United away at the City ground against Nottingham Forest, but it looks like that's been disallowed for VAR as well.
It has been indeed. A few goals flying in around the Championship. Derby 1, Cardiff 1. Carlton Morris is the goal scorer in that one. Of course, he was quite a significant figure of goal scorers for Derby last season before getting injured. As the ball heads out for a throw-in, Wrexham Watford a 1-1. Southampton against Stoke is 1-1 as well. And a big one inside of League One. Leicester City at home are down by 2-0 against Burton Albion, who were close to relegation last season. Of course, Leicester City being relegated.
Well, and it's Leicester with plenty of problems on the field. They're a huge club with huge, training ground and stadium assets that is now up for sale, but they're in the 3rd tier and they don't have the squad really, and they've had to get rid of so many players. So it could be a long season for Leicester City depending on how things are done there. But that's a perfect start that for Burton.
Is indeed, of course. On Thursday, Sheffield Wednesday were beaten by Bradford by 1-0. They've reinforced their squad as well in League One, spending a bit of the new owner's money as the ball is rolled back to Pickford. He's got to be careful. Mateta was just creeping up on him there quite quickly and just rolls it onto the right-hand side, and the ball's gone out of play. Tarkowski just kicks it straight out. It may have taken a touch off of a Crystal Palace man. It does do so. Everton do have a throw-in on that right-hand side, which Roll will take. He just throws it in. He's got the headband on to try and make sure the hair doesn't get in his face, as he's just thrown it straight into the path of Crystal Palace, who will comfortably have possession of the ball inside the back lineup. There's no real pressure coming from Everton at the moment. They're comfortable enough just to let Crystal Palace have possession of the ball while they kick it round the back. Long ball forward to Mateta. He was holding up play against Branthwaite, but Branthwaite just uses his strength, shrugs him off and wins the ball for Everton. They now have it on the left-hand side. George maybe needs to make that run round the back. He's sort of staying put where he is, but he manages to escape away from a few challenges using a nice bit of footwork. But there's no overlapping run from George. He seems to sort of pull away from the defender, but there's no overlapping run from him.
No, there isn't. I think Everton have got to start looking for some further options in terms of their attacking possession, because it is becoming very predictable here for Palace. They can see what's happening and they just run the ball back high up the field as well.
They do indeed. Nketiah tries to play that ball onto the right-hand side. He was looking for Kamada, who'd pushed up, but couldn't quite get it towards him. Mikolenko manages to escape a challenge as well, as the Mitchell went flying in on him, and then a challenge brought down here is Barry. Kamada was just getting back and just puts in the leg there. He's been awarded a yellow card for his challenge on Tieno Barry, and it will be a free kick for Everton. And you'll see this one again. It's really late from Kamada. Barry just skips away from him. Kamada does well just to keep the foot down, make sure those studs aren't showing. but has been awarded a yellow card, and it will be a Everton free kick then. Two players sort of stand over it. Hayden Hackney is one of them. The other one is Dewsbury Hall. It's whether they go for the shot here or they go for the cross inside of the box. The shot, I think, would catch out the goalkeeper. I think the cross inside the box will probably be the better option. I think it will be Dewsbury Hall to take it. It will be. Looping towards that back stick. Headers go in. It took a deflection, I think, off of Mateta last. It did do so, but now all players sort of crowd around him. And it goes out though for a goal kick. Tarkowski flicked off of Mateta and then on to Tarkowski as it went out of play. Good defending from Mateta in the end, and it will just be a goal kick. And it will be Richards to take it just back towards Henderson. And you've got to say, if that ball is any harder at Henderson, he loses possession of that, they've got to be careful because Everton will just sort of rush in at them, it seems to be.
Well, they will. Everton are going to have to try it. They're going to have to clutch at straws and, you know, look for any crumbs, really, if Palace are going to start playing out from the back and they do any kind of mistake. But now, in Dye finding Barry pushing into the penalty area, there's a decent challenge at the edge of the box from Mitchell. And now Wharton playing it forward. Palace with a chance to go on a counter here.
Yeah, ball moved on to the left-hand side then for Kamada. Needs a little bit of support. Oh, poor ball onto that right-hand side. Munoz was coming forward. It's hit away, but Pickford's hit it his own man. And Mateta will take control of it very slowly, though, onto left-hand side. And then a poor ball. Some poor balls in that final third for Crystal Palace. And Everton have managed to come away with the ball then on the right-hand side with Armstrong. Plays it into Dewsbury Hall, then onto the ball onto the left-hand side for Tyreek George. Cuts inside onto that right foot, manages to get the ball to Armstrong again. Challenge comes in, lovely challenge by Riyad, and goes out of play for a throw in. Oh no, they've kept it in play there, Crystal Palace, on that left hand side, but George is doing the same move. He seems to not want to take it on that left foot at all.
No, he's not, and I think it's becoming quite obvious to Palace that is the case, so they know that as long as they got him on that right foot, he's not going to be able to do anything with it. Just a very quick note for something we were mentioning earlier in League One. Leicester were 2-0 down at home to Burton. They still are, but now they're also down to 10 men, so it's going from bad to worse for the home side of the King Power this afternoon.
Yeah, Oliver Skipp has been sent off for his challenge. Of course, in the Championship, Norwich went down to 10 men as well, losing away to Millwall 3-0 within that game. Seemed to be very comfortable for Millwall. Norwich just can't seem to get to winning ways. As the ball is away by Tarkowski here. Good challenge on Mitchell. Crystal Palace just throw it quickly back into play to Kamada, then on to Wharton. Wharton plays a straight ball through to Nketiah, and ball through towards Mateta isn't the best one. That final third ball now for Crystal Palace is killing them off a little bit.
It is, yeah. They've lost a little bit of their way going forward because they've just not had as much of the ball in attack, and then Dye is now getting more into the game a bit more for Everton.
He is indeed. Skips away from a few challenges there. Goes past the legs of Mitchell and he's using some fancy footwork. Moves the ball to Tyreek George. He's got Mikalenko on the left-hand side but seems to want to go alone. Tries it on the left foot. Simple block for Canvo though, and the better option, definitely play it onto that left-hand side for Mikalenko. Plenty of space for him to run into.
Yeah, it was the much better option. Mikalenko would have been able to get space in for a much better, more precise ball into the box rather than the speculative effort in the end that we saw from George, but it will be a corner.
Yeah, just trying to catch him out. It'll be
in fact, no, it's a throw-in.
Throw into Mikalenko. It'll be a long one in then. He's just waiting for players to set up, and he finally does throw it in towards that near post. It's flicked on, headers go up, Barry's in there, it's still not away, comes back out onto George, whose shot goes wide of the post. They're looking for the offside flag. I think it has been raised in the end by the linesman, but that one just flashes wide of the post.
Just wide of the post. I don't actually think it was George with the shot who was offside. I think it was Branthwaite as he was trying to win the ball back for Everton. Maybe not Branthwaite, actually. It might have been Harrison, Armstrong. Well, I think George may have been in offside position himself anyway, but once that ball went pretty much under the foot of Harrison, they couldn't say he wasn't taking part, and then George's effort goes wide. But Palace, again, taking a short goal kick, and Everton really pressing high up the field.
Yeah, they're sort of doing what Crystal Palace was doing to them within the first 15 minutes that we saw.
Absolutely.
Is Palace putting on the pressure. Everton are now switching it around because Palace seem to have sort of let off a little bit.
Well, it's either Palace letting off or it's Everton stepping up a little bit. I think maybe that's just forced Palace back a bit, but now the visitors are trying to get on the front foot again.
Yeah, Riyad down this left-hand side. He just plays it into Kamada though, and Kamada just taking his time. No real movement from Crystal Palace at the moment. They're sort of looking down towards this right-hand side. Canvo's in there, but the pressure's coming from Everton. They've got to be careful. They've still not made it out of their own half yet, Crystal Palace. Touched by Henderson. Long downfield it goes, but just back into Everton players. Long header forward. Was looking for Tino Barry. Nearly made it towards him. Richards had to mop that ball up, though. He plays it high upfield, and well, Everton coming away with it again on this left-hand side. Hackney plays the ball onto George. George just puts it back onto that right foot, gets his head up, thinks about the cross inside the box, realises there's not that many players, so plays it onto Mikolenko. Ball is now inside the box from Dewsbury Hall, but doesn't even take a deflection, just goes straight out of play. Henderson's happy just to let it hit the side of the net and go out play for a corner kick, but they seem to be loading down this left-hand side constantly.
They are, and it surprises me when you think that Rowland and Dyer are the two on the right-hand side. I mean, they're very capable of putting an attack together between the two of them as well, but for whatever reason, it does seem to be Mikolenko and George that are doing most of the heavy lifting for Everton in terms of their wide play. And actually was a goal kick to Palace after all of that, which they've now taken short. But again, that's the 4th or 5th time in the last 7 or 8 minutes that we've seen Palace play out from the back, and they lose the ball even before it reaches the halfway line.
Yeah, ball from McNeil there. He sort of tried to take the ball on the half turn, and in doing so, didn't make connection with the ball, and it just rolled straight out of play for a throw in. That was always something that Pep Guardiola hated for Manchester City, was taking the ball on the half turn. He didn't like his players doing it, apart from the likes of David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne.
Well, the ones he can trust that could get it right every time, absolutely. But now it's Roll who's lost the ball just in front of his own penalty area, but he's just about recovered it.
Yeah, had to be careful there. Sort of put a foot in on Nketiah, but managed to come away with the ball. Then his ball has moved on to the left-hand side. Challenge comes in from Munoz, and it clips him and goes out of play for a throw-in. I think he thought that it came off George. He looked towards the referee, but no doing. Ball has moved back towards Branthwaite, then on to Tarkowski, who now, of course, wears the captain's armband after Seamus Coleman left last season. Mikolenko tries to make the ball forward. Richards heads it away. George beats his man towards it, but it's only flicked on into the path of Wharton. Wharton moves the ball to McNeil. He's got support from Nketiah and use him. Nketiah plays it back towards Mateta. Oh, he's come off the post. It falls back to Mateta and hits the man on the floor. And, well, they're denied by the woodwork again, Crystal Palace. 2 opportunities denied by the same post.
Well, this one I think might hurt Palace the most, because this one is against the run of play. The previous 2 chances, they were on top. On this occasion, they've barely been able to get out of their own half for the last 7 or 8 minutes. Not a chance of Mateta being offside. And he almost plays that shot too well, because there's a dive from Pickford, so he's got to try and guide it away from Pickford and inside the post, and he hits it slap bang in the middle of the post. And then, as you said, as the ball deflects out, he can't react quickly enough. And actually, Branthwaite does well just to get his body. Well, however much he knew about it, his body just happened to get in the way of that. And yeah, that's a little smile of frustration there that strikers have when they know they've had a good chance to score and they haven't taken it. Because that really, I mean, we've said that 3 times now in this first half, but that should be 1-0 to Palace.
Yeah, I think Branthwaite took a bit of the team really there, and
well, he's been in trouble already in this game, hasn't he? Yeah.
And I don't think he's well. I think they're going to bring him off. He's sort of signalling to the bench that he doesn't want to go off, but then he's sort of hobbling away.
Yeah, well, they can't take a chance. I mean, Michael Keane or indeed Jake O'Brien, they seem like 2 ready-made replacements to go into the centre of defence. So we'll wait and see what David Moyes wants to do. I think for a moment at least, it looks like Everton may have to play with 10.
Yeah, indeed. I'm not sure if he's gone off of the field then, Branthwaite. No, he's still on.
He's still on. So after all of that, he started making his way off, and they decided to keep him on the field. But yeah, I'll be surprised if he comes out for the second half. He seems to be in a little bit of trouble there. But here come Palace again. Yeah,
Wharton with the ball over the top. Mateta, can he reach it? He can't. Nketiah with the header on towards him. And he couldn't angle it down to the path. And a goal for Sunderland. They've equalised against Ipswich. And Gulu is the man who has put the ball into the back of the net. So Ipswich 1, Sunderland 1. About 5 minutes left to go, plus additional time of the first half within our game. It's Everton 0, Crystal Palace 0. And it's Everton with a throw-in. And we see the Everton bench. I think they were probably lining up a substitution for Branthwaite, but of course I think he told them that he is still able to play on. And heads that ball back down towards Tarkowski anyway, who just launches it long up top again onto the right hand side, and that seems to be the sort of thing that they're doing. They seem to be launching it long onto the right hand side but playing it across the floor onto the left.
Yeah, they are. It's a strange one, I think, from Everton, and certainly as Palace have taken this throw quickly, Kamada now with a chance to try and go forward.
Yeah, Kamada, will he play it to Munoz or use him as a bit of a decoy? No, he does play it into the path of him. Canvo onto Wharton. Wharton tries the no-look flick pass back to Munoz, but it doesn't work out, and here they come to Everton on this left-hand side with Kieran Dewsbury-Hall. He's got away from one challenge. He plays it across to Barry. The ball stuck underneath his legs. He knows that there's a good opportunity as well, but the ball was just a little bit behind him, and then it got stuck underneath his legs. He puts a thumbs up to Dewsbury-Hall, who did so well, because yet again another player who possibly could have gone down underneath this challenge, but he manages to stay onto his feet. And Barry, you've got to say, has got to do so much better there.
He does. I mean, fair enough, he's hardly had any service in this first half, but then he's a lone striker in a game where his team haven't had enough attacking possession, so he should, as I say, he can't complain about that. What he's got to do is just take that chance much, much better than what he did. Very heavy touch there from the forward, and Everton with another half chance that isn't taken.
Yeah, and here they come again then, Everton, on this left-hand side. George does a few step-overs, gets away from Munoz. Away from Canvo, plays it into the path of Ndai, skips away from a few challenges. Can he get the shot? He can. It's a good block by Richards. They may complain of a handball here. It was Dewsbury-Hall actually, and it did seem to sort of go behind him. I couldn't see if Henderson had saved it or if the handball was there by
Well, we'd love
Richards.
to see a replay. We won't have time yet because here come Everton again.
Yeah, Dewsbury-Hall fires it in. What a shot that is from Kieran Dewsbury-Hall towards the far post. Henderson just stands there and really out of nothing, they've got a goal. You've got to say it's probably coming for both teams, but it's Everton who have taken the better of their chances, and it's Kieran Dewsbury-Hall who has put them in front.
Yes, he certainly has, and that's after Palace have struck the woodwork on numerous occasions in this first half. But it is Everton that now take the lead with around 2.5 minutes to go before half-time. And it is a great strike from Dewsbury-Hall. We made the point earlier in this half that he's not done enough in this game. I haven't really seen enough of him. But my goodness me, he certainly made up for that. Palace a little bit slow. Munoz shouldn't lose the ball as easy as he does. But he pings that one with his left foot across the goalkeeper from the left-hand side. Is a really good strike from Dewsbury-Hall.
I must say, though, looking at the replay, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall doesn't move. He sort of stays in the same spot that he is, and he's got all these defenders sort of looking in his direction, looking at what Munoz is doing, and not one of them is sort of switched on, and not one of them thinks to close the gap between them, so it just allows the pass first time into the path of him. All he does is turn and just shoots it into the back of the net, and you've got to say, for Crystal Palace, that's happened one or few times where they've just sort of let players run about them.
Yes, they have, and I think that there'll be a real frustration there from Pierre Sage that his team have looked the better going forward, but then they've also looked a little bit slow in reacting to things when they've been in defence.
Indeed, Pierre Sage there will not be happy with the defending on that one, especially having Palace have kept a clean sheet in 5 of their last 8 opening day Premier League games. Have lost their last 5 opening league games when they have conceded. For you, of course, Everton have lost 4 opening day games and not scored in any of them. So it might be the chance for Everton finally scoring in this one to make sure that they get the full 3 points on opening day. Ball is played with Crystal Palace, who are just moving it around at the moment, just looking for maybe a few options to sort of go with, but bodies have been dropped back by Everton, and Adam Wharton there probably not getting a call from his players that Barry was in behind him, and here they come then on the right hand side, and Ndai switches the ball to the left. George chests it down, takes it on that left foot, but he's only heading towards the corner flag. Munoz is alongside him. George back onto the right foot. He does a few step overs, can't get anywhere, just lays it off to Hackney, who delivers a ball inside the area. It's headed away though by Convo and out of play. And out of play for a corner kick.
Yeah, well, Palace are going to be careful now that Everton don't score again before the break. It was a good ball in from the left-hand side. It needed a good header away as well, which they duly got. And now it's a chance for Everton to try and send the big men forward into the penalty area. Henderson already trying to organise his defenders inside that 6-yard box. And confirmation with the VAR checks and the goal, etc. We're going to get 4 minutes of added time.
4 minutes and put up by the fourth official. And can maybe Everton try and find a second just before half-time. It's a short corner routine for them. And quickly Crystal Palace are out, but the ball is whipped in there, but straight into the hands of Henderson. Nobody was inside of that 6-yard box. They had all sort of pushed themselves out towards the edge of the area instead.
They had, yeah. There wasn't really the right sort of area for that kind of ball to be going into. But Palace certainly won't mind, because it means that they at least get a moment to try and get this ball away from their own penalty area. But yeah, Pierre Sarge, I think, will be very frustrated with this first half.
Ball is moved by Crystal Palace onto the left-hand side, just switching it from that right-hand side. Leicester City have got a goal back against Burton. So Leicester City 1, Burton 2. Of course, they went down to 10 men as well after going 2-0 down to Burton Albion. Try and get an equaliser in that one, and maybe Crystal Palace can try and get an equaliser just before half-time as well. They're moving the ball nicely onto the left-hand side. They need a little bit of something, though, as Everton now are starting to drop bodies back. We didn't see this first much of them, but they are starting to get a few bodies back, and Ketia tries a little step over, trying to fake out Tarkowski. Mitchell has done well to keep it in play. Tarkowski's battling, and then Mitchell just drags him down to the floor, and that was always going to be a foul. Tarkowski played that well. He sort of backed up into the corner and just waited for that foul to come by Mitchell.
Yeah, it was an easy one in the end, that for Tarkowski. We could see David Moyes, one of his assistants there, Alan Irvine. They're not saying too much to each other, but I think they'll be very pleased with how the first half is ending. But they'll know that's not the entire story, and they'll know that Pierre Sarge will be getting into his players at half-time, saying that they shouldn't be a goal down. So there's still plenty more life, I think, in this game. But from Everton's point of view, it was ideal that they scored before the break, because they were struggling in front of goal, really.
Indeed. There's Pickford in that luminous green kit will now take it. Goes long onto the right-hand side, headed comfortably by Riyad. To not dealt with, still inside of the Crystal Palace half. Ball is hacked away downfield towards George. Good touch from him. He's looking for a few options. Finds Mikalenko onto the left-hand side. Ball is just played back though towards Branthwaite. Branthwaite back towards Pickford. Downfield it goes, but it's headed away again by Crystal Palace. That's something that they're probably comfortable with at the moment, heading these balls away when they're long up into the air. They find it a little bit too comfortable for them, but as soon as the ball is sort of moved along the floor, they find it a little bit difficult as they have possession of the ball here. Looking towards that right hand side, but it's good pressure coming from Everton at the moment, trying to make sure that Crystal Palace don't make it out of their own halfway. As I say that, Mateta turned away from his man, but a little bit slow to move off, and finally gets the ball to the left-hand side for Mitchell. Mitchell needs a little bit of support, finds it. McNeil delivers the ball inside the box. A header comes in inside the 6-yard box. Did it take a touch off of George? Did he do enough just to put his man off? And Munoz, who managed to get the header in there, just coming in behind, but I think it's just straight out for a goal kick.
I think it has come off the Colombian last. I mean, he may actually be a shoulder's width offside. Then no, looking at it, it was George's header for sure. So the fact that he has get it right the third time. It looked like George had leaned into that one, but in actual fact, it was Munoz that nods it out. But yeah, frustrating end to the half for Palace, having been the better side for most of the first 45 minutes.
Indeed, long ball forward, headed away, then launched forward onto the corner flag. Henderson has possession of the ball, and the referee has seen enough of this first half then. Well, chances have been created for both teams. You've got to say it was Everton with the better, Crystal Palace with the better of the chances, but denied by the woodwork twice. One saved by Pickford onto it, and then Mateta with a clear shot, but that one came rattling back off. But it was Kiernan Dewsbury Hall's goal that separates the two sides at the break. It is Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0.
Half-time at Hill Dickinson Stadium, where Everton lead against Crystal Palace by 1-0, and the Palace better dressing room must be... Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0.
Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0. Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0 is the half-time score at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and the Palace players, the manager, the fans, they must all be wondering how that is possible. Palace had 3 clear-cut chances to score. Mateta blazing over the bar from close range after a pass from Nketiah. Maybe Nketiah just delayed the pass. There was a great chance as well for Munoz, but he couldn't get it on target. Then Mateta thought he'd scored, but Pickford parried the shot onto the post. At the other end, Everton struggled to make chances, but then Palace gave the ball away, and it was picked up by Dewsbury, who pinged it with his left foot from the left-hand side into the top corner. Everton lead 1-0.
It's a very warm welcome back to second half independent off-tube studio commentary from the game at Hill Dickinson Stadium, where it is Everton 1, Crystal Palace 0, and Palace will feel hard done by with that scoreline. They had the majority of the attacking play, certainly in the first 30 minutes of the first half, and on a couple of occasions testing Jordan Pickford, as well as the poster saving Everton on one occasion after Pickford parried an effort from Mateta onto the post. But we are underway now in this second half with Palace a goal down. We'll see whether or not Pierre Sarge's side can make any alterations to how they're playing. There haven't been any changes at half-time, so the same 2 11s coming out for the second 45 minutes. But Everton, perhaps they're going to try and build on that goal towards the end of the first half, having been under the cosh for certainly the first 20 minutes or so. But Everton win the ball back in midfield and they're trying to get on the attack straight away. It's myself, Paul Shbakovic, and Joe Pearson taking it through the action. Joe, we were just saying that just off air that Palace will feel very hard done by if they don't get a goal in this game.
Yeah, indeed. Two clear-cut opportunities. Like you said, Mateta hitting one off of the post, and Nketiah's one being saved by Pickford onto the post. So they created chances throughout that game, throughout the first half. Sorry, but at the moment it sort of died off for them a little bit within the last 20 minutes or so, where the final third ball, the final pass, was sort of the killer for them. They were making all these good moves, and then suddenly it'd just be that one final pass would just let them down, and Everton were sort of starting to capitalise on that and building up a little bit more pressure. Definitely the same here again.
Well, Palace have just been caught in possession, and it's a chance for Barry now as he hits an effort from just outside the box. It's blocked off by Richards, and now Palace doing their best to try and keep possession in midfield here with Kamada just going back towards Riyad, and now it's over to Mitchell on the left-hand side, who plays the ball down that channel. It's not a good ball at all. It's easily cut out here by Merlin Roll, and it's Everton back on the attack, with a Roll overplays that slightly, and the move just sort of breaks down, but Everton are able to go back towards half-time. So no changes at half-time. Pickford in goal for Everton, a back four of Roll, Tarkovsky, Branthwaite and Mikalenko. Armstrong and Hackney are the two holder midfielders, with Ndai, Dewsbury Hall and George as the attacking midfield three playing behind Barry. As for Palace, it is Henderson in goal, back three of Canvo, Richards and Riyad. Munoz, Kamada, Wharton and Mitchell make up the four in midfield, with Nketiah, McNeil and Mateta as the three attacking players. And it's over on the right-hand side now for Everton. A cross coming in from Merlin Roll, takes a deflection off Mitchell, and it is out for a corner kick to Everton.
Yeah, down the right-hand side it was. Good little move from Roll. Mitchell maybe just picking up a little bit of a knock there, just holding on to the ankle on that one. Just seeing if it was all right, but good move. And yeah, Everton just starting the way that they ended within that first half. They'll want more of that, hunting down for that second goal. I think for Crystal Palace, they've just sort of got to maintain this strength at the back and hopefully sort of kind of go through some stages of getting some clear-cut chances.
Well, here comes the ball in from Dewsbury Hall, left-footed in-swinger from the right-hand side. It's cleared to the edge of the area. Half a chance here for George if he can find enough space to shoot. He does shoot, but takes a big deflection. It was never going to be on target, but was also going to squirm away from Henderson, so that will be out for another corner.
Yeah, you can tell he just doesn't want to use that left foot though. There's a few times where he sort of cut back onto it, and you could see him not really wanting to load up. You know, he never sort of swung his boot back.
I always think it's a bit of a problem when, I say, if we're spotting that as commentators, then obviously opposing managers, coaches, players are going to know that, and they're going to know there's no threat from George on the left-hand side, so they're always going to try and force him onto that left foot, which makes it that much more difficult for him to do a quick shot or cross. But that's something he's going to have to work on. In the meantime, it's a corner kick here to Everton. It's in, swinging right in towards the goal there. It needed a punch clear from Henderson, and it's cleared back into midfield where Mikalenko was the last man back for Everton. He goes out towards the left-hand side for George. Here he is down the left, they're trying to do a quick link-up, and he does really well with Hackney. Hackney then gets the ball, and Hackney's into the penalty area. He tries to drive a ball into the box, but that one is blocked by Campbell, out for a throw-on.
Yeah, really good block there on the left-hand side. This time, though, good little move from Everton. They're maintaining this pressure onto Crystal Palace, and whether Palace can sort of weather this storm at the moment and try and hold on just to that one goal.
What a great long throw that is from Mikalenko. Didn't even take much of a runner, but he certainly got a lot of distance on it. The ball is nodded clear, and the Ukrainian international will just allow that ball to go out for another throw. So still level with the penalty area here on the left-hand side. Long ball now from Mikalenko into the 6-yard box. That one's headed up in the air by Mateta, who's back covering. It's cleared just towards the edge of the box, but it's still with Hackney here for Everton. Plays it into George. A bit of a heavy touch there. Cambo trying to force the ball out for a goal kick. It deflects back into Cambo. This time as he's been closed down by Dewsbury Hall. He is able to get the deflection he was wanting the first time round, and Palace have a goal kick.
Yeah, doing really good from Crystal Palace there. Some long throw-ins from Mikolenko. They're going to be a danger, I think, this season for any team coming up against Everton. But Crystal Palace managed to deal with them nicely. Just headed the ball straight back to them all the time, though, and that's one thing that they've probably got to make sure doesn't happen with these long throw-ins, is that they just header them out and Everton maintain possession of the ball. You've sort of got to rush out with the ball as soon as that header goes in. Make sure that you're first onto it before any of the Everton players.
Well, Everton are trying to get after this ball. Mikolenko was the furthest forward on this occasion as it was bouncing forward down the left-hand side, but Palace win it back. And it's now a combination of Munoz getting that ball. I was going to say Munoz and Wharton getting the ball away, but they give it away in midfield, and now it's with Barry in towards Ndiaye at the edge of the area. Now it's going to be Dewsbury Hall, but he gets underneath that one. It's a similar sort of distance from where he scored from in the first half, but this time he pings it with the toe end and it goes a long way over the bar. Yeah,
really poor from Wharton there, because he's quickly closed down by Mikolenko again, and I don't know if he's just got a shout a little bit too late, which has sort of made him panic, and he's had to play that ball a little bit quickly out there, and he's been caught out from Armstrong, who just laid it off into the path of Ndiaye. Yet again, it's just brilliant footwork from him, isn't it? He just manages to skip away from a few of the challengers, get it around a few of the players, and then just play it onto that left-hand side for Dewsbury Hall, who, better option, would have probably just to try and dink it towards that far post, but saw the sort of gap open up and just went for it alone.
Well, he did, and now on this occasion, Wharton, he gave the ball away, as you mentioned before, but this time he did really well just to ride the challenges. Pass forward to Mateta, though, was just a little bit overhit, but then it's a poor ball out from Branthwaite, who has come out for the second half despite us thinking he might be injured. Then it's a strong challenge on him from Wharton. Both sets of players want the throw. The decision does go the way of the home side, much of the frustration of Palace's Adam Wharton out for a throw. Branthwaite with his hand up to apologise for the initial giveaway, but he did well to dive in on that second one to make sure that his side got possession back. I'm sure he would have had a word at half-time with the physio, but he didn't look comfortable towards the end of the first half, but he's still back out for the second. Yeah, maybe just got a little bit of treatment on it, on the massage table, and just they've thought that it's all right now. Pain has gone for him, but yeah, like you said, just picked up that little bit of a knock on that right leg, but seems to be comfortable on it, but it might be a change that they make later on throughout the game. Yeah, they'll certainly be keeping an eye on that, I'm sure, but it's gone out for a throw to Everton on the right-hand side now. Still a long way from the Palace penalty area. It was Chadi Riyad with the challenge for a throw. You can see Pierre Sage there, the new Crystal Palace manager. You know the expectations here at Selhurst Park are always very high, particularly after the last couple of seasons. But here come Everton. Oh, well, that's into the penalty area, and it's headed down by Barry. And it's 2-0 to Everton on 53 minutes. It's all far too easy. Just a quick throw down the right-hand side, a ball into the box, no marking, and Everton have doubled their lead just inside the second half. Yeah, lovely header from Barry, just right in higher than all of them, and using his strength, managing to get that ball inside the box, and he just heads it down. There's nothing that really Dean Henderson could do about it, but yet again, Crystal Palace, well, told them maybe just to hold on to that a little bit more, and they haven't done so. There was pressure coming from Everton, there was build up within there, you could sort of sense it, but it's just this quick free kick here. It's into Ndiaye, and not one of them comes out towards him. No one comes towards it.
Mitchell backs off.
Take nothing away from Ndiaye, it's a beautiful ball into the box, but I mean, somebody should be closing him down, and Tieno Barry, I mean, Richards is only close to him because he's jumping to try and cut the header out himself. Nobody's actually marking Barry, and it's far too easy. Yeah, Canvo's in behind him. He's looking at that, and to me, you've sort of got to close him down quicker. If you're noticing that Richards hasn't turned his head at all, go in behind him, just slot in behind him, make sure that that ball never comes to Barry, make sure you're there first towards it. And this occasion Canvo didn't do that, he was sat behind him and just had to watch Tieno Barry rise up as Richards did as well, but he won the ball and he got the second goal for Everton. But for me there, Mitchell has got to be quicker to close Ndiaye down, because there's two players around him. No, there absolutely is, and I think that they should have done a little bit better with that one, and Palace will be very frustrated because they barely had time to sort of bed down for the second half with the team manager's team talk for a 1-0 deficit. Now they're 2-0 down, so everything gets that much more difficult for Palace now. Indeed. Yeah, long clearance there into midfield. It's gone all the way back towards Branthwaite. He's being closed down. He's got enough time to leave this ball then for Jordan Pickford. So just the one game in the Premier League, still goalless. It is at the City Ground between Nottingham Forest and Leeds. Leeds did have the ball in the net in the first half, but there was an offside. Now Palace are going to make a change, and it's a double change here as well. Pierre Sarge is not wasting any more time. Looks like Yeremy Pino is going to be coming on the field, as indeed is Kalali. I think that's right. Anyway, we'll just double check to see who it is that's going to be going off. But yeah, from Palace's point of view, it's going to be the two players playing on the right-hand side here, and Nketiah and Munoz are going to be going off. And it is Pino and Kalali who are going to be coming on to replace them.
Yeah, indeed. Changes there for them. I thought Munoz was having a good game, though, to be fair, on that right-hand side, but...
I mean, I would say that Munoz is probably one of Palace's best players on his day. As I say, maybe just having a bit of a quiet one this afternoon. But I'm surprised. Everton on the attack again, though, as they break through. It's going through to Barry, goes close for goal, and it's saved by the goalkeeper. Barry left it in the end, and it was in Dye with the strike straight at Henderson, who makes a good save. And Dye still has a hit down the right-hand side. He rolls it forward towards Armstrong. Armstrong plays it into a channel, but he's getting himself too much to do, and that will just roll out for a goal kick.
Yeah, we'll do indeed. But another chance for Everton, and Dye, you just can't quite believe it. As the ball was just moved onto that left-hand side, and it was him inside the box, just waiting for it to arrive towards him. Strikes it first time, and it just sort of bounces into the floor quite high, so he's trying to get that height onto it, trying to just loop it over Dean Henderson, but Henderson with a comfortable save in the end. And yeah, there's changes for Crystal Palace, and hopefully they can sort of try and get Palace back into this game.
Well, they'll be hoping that so they can get a bit more of a presence in midfield. Pino certainly is somebody who can create. The only question is, of course, whether or not they're going to have enough attacking possession to really make inroads. But here come Everton again. Everton are really on it now. They're pushing forward again down the left-hand side. A ball into the box, into Dewsbury. Oh, and it doesn't. It's not too far away from finding Barry, who was the intended target, but it deflects off Richards, and it's out for a corner.
It does indeed. Dewsbury Hall just moving around there yet again. He's just a real dangerous presence for Everton at the moment. Same with Ndiaye. They just can't seem to contain both of them at the moment. Crystal Palace, but David Moyes maybe seeing something that he's still not quite happy about that his side are doing at the moment, but out for the goal kick.
Goal kick and a long ball now towards the halfway line. Headed back down. It's one here in midfield by Ndiaye for Everton, and it's Rolls ball into the middle. Barry holds it up and plays it back towards Armstrong. Certainly seems to be given more license to push forward in that central midfield. Hackney's the one who's really being told to sit back. It's with Dewsbury Hall. It's in towards Hackney. Looking up, options here left and right before he decides to just play the ball in towards Branthwaite. Then goes square to Roll on the right-hand side. Roll finding Ndiaye, immediately under pressure there from a Mitchell, so the ball is played all the way back towards the goalkeeper. It did get a deflection on the way, so Pickford is okay to pick that up, which is what he does. And he punts it long over the halfway line as well, and it's headed forward, but the visitors struggling to get on the ball right now. Yeah,
they are indeed. They've got themselves though the throw in, which yet again there's no sort of real urgency from them anymore. They're sort of moving the ball, but Everton are doing what they did in the first half to them. They're just putting on the pressure constantly against Crystal Palace, and Palace, yeah, trying a few passes, but they're going astray, and I think it's now a little bit too easy for Everton to sort of deal with this.
Yeah, it's becoming a little bit too slow paced, as you say. It's slow from Palace and also very predictable, whereas from Everton's point of view, they're looking very comfortable now with this second goal. But here come Palace now. That's a through ball from Pino. It's a good one as well, in towards Mitchell. Oh, that's really good covering there as well, just to stop that ball going out for a corner kick. They were saying that there was a handball as Roll was back there covering, and the referee agrees. It will be a free kick to Everton just at the edge of their own penalty area. So, yeah, it's a frustrating afternoon so far for Pierre Sarge, the new Palace manager, wanting to see some kind of response here before the end of the game. See those travelling fans from South London, plenty of them at Hill Dickinson this afternoon. They'll be very frustrated as well, and they'll be getting even more frustrated because it's Everton pushing forward again here now with George getting towards the edge of the area. Thought about playing it towards the box, just goes out towards the right-hand side for Ndiaye. Ndiaye then driving it across is just a bit too high for anyone to be able to use that as a cross. And the ball is kept in play here on the right-hand side. There's a very heavy touch though, and chance here for Everton. Everton do win it back very high up the field. It's Mikolenko breaking into the penalty area. Was he brought down as he was trying to get in there? The referee says no. And the ball is cleared back into midfield. But again, it's an Everton player that gets on it first. And they're attacking now here down the left-hand side, all the way to the penalty area. It deflects back into the path of Dewsbury Hall. He spots Ndai on the right-hand side of the box. Ndai tricking and turning, but he can't find a way into the penalty area. He goes back to roll. And then it's back towards Hackney. Now it's with Armstrong. Armstrong at the edge of the area. A bit of a miscommunication there between him and Hackney in the end. I think one was expecting the other one to go for it. Palace now have it back with Adam Wharton. He goes square to Kamada. Now finding Pino. We're just over the hour mark here at Hill Dickinson Stadium, where it's Everton 2, Crystal Palace 0. And the visitors really struggling to get any kind of attacking threat in this second half, having looked the better side in the first half an hour of this game.
Yeah, indeed, they definitely were, and of course they had those missed opportunities, though it probably falls back to the Mateta chance and the Nketiah chance that they should have done much better with, especially Mateta's one. He just had all that time, it was played across the floor to him. All he had to do was sort of slot it into that side netting, but I think he just went for too much accuracy, and in the end just turned his foot a little bit too much, and it hit the post on that occasion, and that's probably just let them down. At the moment they're moving the ball nicely. There's a little bit more sense of urgency since these changes have come on.
Well, yeah, just as you say that, there is a ball being played into the Everton penalty area. It's not quite long enough for Mitchell to be able to use Kamada, trying to put pressure to win that ball high up the field, but Everton do get it away. Turning now with Tieno Barry. Was he fouled? Referee says no, and there's a chance now for Palace at the edge of the area. It takes too long there, does Pino, and he's easily charged down. Second ball is now back with Wharton. Wharton into Pino. To Adam Wharton. No options here to try and go closer to goal. It's still around 40 yards out for Crystal Palace. Lady going back towards the halfway line. Camvo under pressure. On the right-hand side, but again, no options to get that ball into the penalty area. It's just gone square to Wharton. On the left-hand side, into Pino. Pino's got five options at the edge of the penalty area, but he just goes square to Camvo, who joins the attack, and then Camvo's pass down that right channel is overhit by some way, and it's a bit of a waste after all that build-up, and it's out for a goal kick. Meanwhile, Palace are going to make another double change. There's an attacking change with Gussond and Strand Larsen getting ready to come on.
Yeah, indeed. Changes will be made for them then. And it is looking like Mateta will come off of the field then. One of the chances that was missed, unfortunately, for them. He's had plenty of opportunities to try and put Crystal Palace in front of this game and try and get him back in it as well, but just not his day today.
No, not his day at all. So McNeil is another one who's going off, and I suppose the same rules apply. It's not been his day either.
No, it hasn't. He's not really got involved much, apart from his other man on the right-hand side, Nketiah. He got quite involved in this game, but McNeil today just couldn't get involved. Maybe just not passing him the ball enough, but yeah, just never really got going.
Didn't get going at all, and now Palace, they're going to hope that this double change in attack is going to change their fortunes a little bit, because they are moving forward now. That the pass into the penalty area isn't quite as accurate as you want now. As a very loose pass inside his own half there from Ndai. He'll be very glad to hear the referee's whistle, because just after he made that pass, his teammate Merlin Roll was caught, and that will be a free kick to Everton. Yeah, will be. He's not too happy about that one. He's in some pain actually, rolling around on the floor. Hackney is just clutching at that right leg, getting a little bit of support off his teammate. I don't think the physios have been called onto the field, but yeah, we've just seen Kitten Dewsbury Hall's goal again. Lovely little turn away, lovely shot, and then Tieno Barry's as well. Good header down into the ground. Yeah, I mean, it certainly is, Joe. It's a very good header, but it shouldn't have been given the chance in the first place. So just as we're waiting for play to restart here, just to remind you, it is 1-1 between Ipswich and Sunderland. It's 0-0 between Nottingham Forest and Leeds. In the early Premier League game, it finished Hull City 2, Manchester United 1. In the Championship, it's Blackburn 2, Middlesbrough. Borough 1-0 up in that game, so Blackburn have completely turned it around. Cardiff 2, it's Derby 2-2 with Cardiff. Preston still a goal down at home to Wolves. QPR 0-0 with Bolton. Southampton 1-1 with Stoke, Swansea 0-0 with Sheffield United, West Ham are now 2-0 down at home to Charlton, and it's 1-1 between Wrexham and Watford. The earlier games, Birmingham 2, Bristol City 2, Lincoln 1, Portsmouth 3, and it was 3-0 to Millwall, who ended up finishing the match against the 10-man Norwich side. So that's all the latest scores from our top two divisions. And the long ball is played all the way to the Crystal Palace penalty area. And for a second there, it looked like Henderson had run into no man's land, but there was still enough time for him to get back and make the save.
Yeah, indeed, not sure what he was doing there. I think he thought that Richards wasn't going to get it, and then I think he was maybe off-put a little bit by the sun being in his eyes, that he couldn't quite see the ball coming towards him. He thought it was closer than it was. In the end, it just bounced past him. He was very lucky.
Well, here come Palace now at the edge of the area. The ball played through, but it just takes a slight nick on the way after that attempted pass from Gussond, and it will just trickle straight through towards Jordan Pickford.
Yeah, Gussond just seeing the gap open up for him. Branthwaite put his body across. It sort of goes through the legs of him as he's diving across. He's looking for that far post, but he doesn't quite get the accuracy onto it. And in the end, Pickford just diving down to that right-hand side to make a comfortable save.
Yeah, easy save that one for Jordan Pickford in the end, as here come Palace again, starting inside their own half with Riyad towards Richards. It's with Camvo. Seeing that there's quite a high line there from Everton, so not too many options in terms of a long diagonal ball. But they're going to try their best anyway here with Riyad. To Mitchell, to Richards. Spell of possession this for Palace, but in the first half when we saw periods of possession like this, they ended up doing something at the end of it. This time they're really struggling. Yeah,
they are indeed, and I think that's because momentum's been taken out of it a little bit, maybe a little bit of confidence now, going 2-0 down. But also Everton are just sort of getting back in numbers now. They're sort of closing that back line down, and that's what they were doing within the last bit of the second half as well. Is they were closing that back line down and not allowing Crystal Palace any time.
Well, that's exactly it, and by doing that, they just made it even more difficult for Palace, who are actually starting to lose their way towards the end of the. That's a pretty poor challenge there, and not sure if Paul Tierney's already thinking about a yellow card, but he certainly can't be far off.
Yeah, definitely so. I don't think he has awarded any card for that challenge. I think David Moyes wasn't too happy about that one, straight up into the fourth official's face, but I can see why, maybe just a first challenge, and Barry just has Everton come away here.
Well, they do it. This might cheer up David Moyes, because it's an attack here for Everton at the edge of the area, attempted turn there from Barry. He's suggesting he might have been impeded. I'm not even sure if I disagree with that. I think he might be right, but it's probably just not enough contact to be talking about a penalty.
Yeah, Crystal Palace man down here. Riyad is in some discomfort, and I think he's pulled something while going in for this challenge here. It does not look good for him. Just overstretching.
Yeah,
it's that right knee. Actually, I think he's jarred the right knee.
He has jarred the right knee, and so that's going to be a painful one for the Moroccan. Let's hope that it's nothing too long-standing. And the physio now coming out to assist.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, does it? Plenty of players. I think he instantly knew. He instantly sort of called them onto the field. He's shaking his head. I don't think he's going to be able to continue here. And I think Crystal Palace are going to have to make their final change.
Yeah, they are. It's just as well they've made two changes of two in the previous windows, if you like. They've left themselves one more change. Whether or not this is going to be a like swap, or if they're going to try and change their tactics to be a little bit more attacking, I suppose only time will tell.
I think they might need that Axel Disasi transfer sooner than later. Then, if this is worse than Riyad thinks, because they now will make the change, but he is in some very much discomfort, rolling around on the floor there.
No, he is. Doesn't look too happy at all. He'll be, as I say, the kind of player he is. He'll be very frustrated if he hears he can't play on. But, for the time being, looks like it's going to be Takehiro Tomiyasu to come on.
Indeed, he's just getting some instructions from his manager and just getting himself ready then. There's, of course, a little drinks break for a few of the players, and it just allows David Moyes some time with his players just to go over a few things, maybe telling them just to keep at this sort of pace, and try and see if you can make get a third or a fourth and sort of make a statement in your first Premier League.
No, absolutely. I think a lot of people were expecting that Palace would be doing well. I said to do well this season. They've got a second European campaign to think about, which is going to make things even more complicated.
I think he might have dislocated his knee. It doesn't look good. It's sort of,
No.
yeah, the stretcher's been called on. His
It's-
leg sort of goes behind it.
It does, but then I don't think, as somebody who's sadly suffered this injury, it's not the full dislocation because his kneecap is still in the centre of his leg. It's not sort of skipped over to one side like, as I say, anyone who's had that or anyone who's witnessed anyone else having it is quite an unpleasant experience. And yeah, and as you mentioned as well, the way the players reacted, I think, is very, very telling. As soon as players go from saying, "Oh, get up," to actually saying, "Oh, come on, somebody needs some help here," that gives you an idea that they could see this was more than just a bit of. Well, obviously, Palace don't want to waste time anyway. They're 2-0 down. They need every second they can get. But for the time being, yeah, I've got a slight delay here now, whilst the substitution is going to be made and the player is carried off on a stretcher.
Yeah, Tomiyasu then will be coming onto the field, I think, in replace of Riyad, who has had a decent game, I think, for Crystal Palace today. Just trying to hold down that back line a little bit. He's put in some strong challenges, but definitely probably the end of his game, and you wonder how long he's going to be out for now. Another defender sort of lost for them. They don't really have many left. Of course, after the Lacroix move to Chelsea, maybe they might have to look towards Disasi and maybe a few others.
Yeah, you feel like there's going to have to be something done because certainly can't afford to have that as threadbare and attacking lineup as they've got at the moment. As you say, it only takes 1 or 2 injuries, and then someone's having to play out of position, someone's having to play extra games that maybe you weren't expecting them to. So it's always extra work there for the manager. But for the time being, still waiting for this stretcher to get organised, and Tomiyasu is waiting patiently to come on as well. But we're coming up to the 72nd minute here at the Hill Dickinson, where it's Everton 2, Crystal Palace 0, and it'll be Joe to take us through to full time.
Yeah, the holding his knee as he sort of goes along. They clearly don't want it like whacking against the stretcher. Of course, we speak about changes for Crystal Palace, so Riyad will go off and Tomiyasu coming on then. Speak about players playing out of position and things like that. Tomiyasu will now come on, and I think Riyad, well, he's got his shirt over his face, and I don't want to say season ender, but it's sort of looking that way for him a little bit.
I think it's maybe early to say it as far as that, but then it didn't look good. I mean, the player's body language, the way that the injury's being treated, the very sort of delicate way in which the physios and the other staff are carrying him off the field, it doesn't look good for him, that's for sure.
No, it doesn't indeed. He knew sort of instantly, didn't he? He called on the stretcher instantly, and it's another one for Pierre Sage to think about now, going into maybe the next game as well, and how he'll sort of start this lineup. He has gone with this 3 at the back today, and I wonder if that's the formation that they will stick with for Crystal Palace. But it's about having that depth on the bench, as here comes Barry.
It's having that depth on the bench, but it's also being humble enough as a manager to know that that it can't work. So we know that certain managers will always try to implement their formation, but here come Everton now.
Yeah, ball into Ndai's got the movement. It comes out to George with the shot. Over the crossbar it goes though, just flashing wide, and it will stay Everton 2, Crystal Palace 0. But another chance for Everton there, and Crystal Palace just couldn't quite deal with this one.
No, they couldn't, and the effort, they'll be very pleased to see that one placed over as he was trying to force the angle. It's an interesting situation here that we've had 5 substitutes from one team and none from the other. I'm not sure I remember any game in recent times where I've seen that.
Yeah, I don't know if David Moyes might be warming up a few substitutions, as maybe just, of course, he's had the players in the huddle and just thought, well, what should we go to, and had a little think, maybe telling a few of them that maybe you're coming off in just a minute or so, and maybe just waiting for that 75-minute mark before he makes those sort of substitutions towards the game. We can see a few players. I do wonder if maybe Johnson will come onto the field for Everton, and see how that sort of lines up. Of course, they've got Keane as well, Patterson Garner, who's coming, of course, off of that hernia operation. Alcaraz as well, so it'd be interesting to see who they sort of bring on. Maybe just getting them fresh legs and just sort of waiting for the next game.
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got to try and conserve their edge. It's going to be a long season. Some players are only just getting over what was a long last season and summertime as well. So Palace in possession now down the right-hand side with Mitchell. goes back in towards Kamada.
Yeah, Mitchell's pulled up here. He's clutching at that ankle again there, and I wonder if there's another issue here defensively for Crystal Palace, because Mitchell looks like he may continue sort of hobbling. They've given him the ball, but he's not touching it at all with that right foot, and he keeps on going down towards it. But they've come across here. Wharton tries to flick it on. Gusand now has possession of it, but it's away, and Everton can come away with it. But they've got nobody on that right-hand side, and it's going to be a struggle for Mitchell to try and get back. He's sort of hobbling back into position, and they've managed to win it back anyway. But that does not look good, and he's going to have to stay on the field because they can't make any more substitutions.
No, they can't unless he physically can't run and be of no use to his team. He's better being in that sort of 60% state than his, as you say, than his team being down to 10 men.
Yeah, another defensive one that they might have to look out for. You obviously talk about players playing out of position. We can't all be like Stockport where your striker can play defender like Kyle Wotton can. As Crystal Palace come away with the ball here on the right hand side. Mikalenko's doing well to sort of deal with it, and Kalali there, well, he feels like that Mikalenko was fouling him more than he was fouling Mikalenko, but it's been given as a free
I'd
kick.
probably go with the Palace version of that. I didn't think there was too much wrong with what Munoz was doing, but Mikalenko, experienced defender, he knows how to show the referee that there was some contact. So that will be a free kick to be taken by Pickford with just under 50 minutes to go before we hit injury time.
Yeah, Kalali, of course, a new one to Crystal Palace's side, come from Union SG in the Belgian league. He does have experience within the Champions League and the Europa League, so good experience to sort of bring in heading into Europa spots for Crystal Palace.
Absolutely. You want those young players, but you need those players as well that have had experience playing in those competitions, because without that it's going to be very difficult for any of the other players to relate to it.
Yeah, indeed. As Adam Wharton has possession of the ball, just switches it on to Kamada on the left hand side. They're looking for a few options. They try and play it into Tomiyasu, who's sort of having to come upfield a little bit more on that left hand side now that Mitchell's there. You can see him sort of not sit as tight in that defensive role.
No, well, the Palace have got to try and expand a little bit. They get a goal back quickly, there could be game on. Here comes the ball in from Gesson.
Yeah, Gesson just looking for Strand Larsen, headed away by Tarkovsky. Gesson gets the ball, but he's fouled the man, and he's not happy about that one. Dewsbury Hall maybe going down a little bit cheaply, but just see it again. Gesson just gets in front of him, and yeah, as Dewsbury Hall just tries to turn Gassan Stall up the back of him. Actually,
he does put his hands on him. Whether or not it's enough to bring Dewsbury Hall down, it probably isn't. But then don't give him the chance to try and win his side a free kick.
Yeah, indeed. But Everton will be happy with that one. A little bit of time wasting now. Pickford just holds up one arm. There's no need to rush things for them now. Just can play calm and comfortable. But yet again, maybe for Everton, trying to get a third or a fourth, just trying to make that statement, you'd say.
Yeah, they've not really been that close to getting a third or a fourth in this game so far. It's gone a little bit sort of stalemate in midfield, with Palace desperate to try and push forward, but not really being able to do it. And now there is a problem for Everton. They might be forced into a change because Tieno Barry's down on the ground. Yeah,
of course, they do have Beto to bring on. I think that's maybe going to be the change anyway that's going to be made by David Moyes' side. Beto, he's going to be one of them. Can't quite see the other one. Maybe O'Brien coming on, but a little bit of cramp, Tieno Barry says. Whether it's cramp, whether it's a bit of time wasting, who knows, but changes will come for Everton. But of course, Barry can't be too long, otherwise they won't be able to make the change.
No, absolutely. There are rules about that sort of thing, aren't there? I think it's
James Garner.
It is James Garner, yes. So he'll be coming back on the field.
Interesting one. Of course, still recovering, but maybe fit to play, says David Moyes. So we will see the goal scorer of the second goal, Tieno Barry, coming off of the field, and in replace of him will be Beto then. And just waiting to see and get confirmation of who Garner will be coming on in replace of. Will we see Hayden Hackney? We will do. Hayden Hackney is coming off of the field. A strong debut for him in that midfield position.
I would agree, very much so. I think that I like the way that there's a differentiation between Hackney and Armstrong. Armstrong seems to be given the licence to get a bit further forward. Hackney's the one actually sitting deeper, and I thought he did that well today, although it has to be said he wasn't really tested in the second half that much. Yeah,
indeed, but seems to slot in nicely into David Moyes' side. Of course, we thought that he might be more of the attacking threat, and well, Brennan Johnson's been called back to the bench as well, taken off the bib, so I wonder if he might be a substitution later on for Everton as well. Maybe just gets a run out for the last 5 minutes or so, who knows.
I think it'll make sense to do that because he'll be keen to prove something against Palace as well.
Yeah, indeed. ball onto the left-hand side to Mitchell, who seems to be all right now. He's not hobbling as much, maybe just felt a slight twinge, but having to sort of push on through the pain as well. As Richards has possession of the ball, just plays it onto that right-hand side. Gusand now has it, he needs a little bit of support, finds it in Pino, but Pino is just a little bit late to react towards the ball. Beto plays it into the path of Ndai. Ndai moving the ball nicely into Armstrong, but Armstrong's lost possession of the ball here. Strong challenge comes in from Ndai, and the ball is bouncing around. They're looking for a few options. Well, it's come away with Everton. Roll will just play it back to Pickford, and Pickford first times that one. He had opportunities to try and take a touch there, but instead just first timed it, and it goes out of play for a Crystal Palace throw in. Andy Burnham seems happy. He's in conversation. He'll be happy with the way that Everton have played in this first one as well.
It's a nice distraction from his rather serious day job that he's got on at the moment. But yeah, certainly if he can enjoy some time back in his hometown and seeing his beloved Everton getting a good result, that won't do him any harm at all. But from Palace's point of view, they've still got to keep trying, and they're pushing forward now.
Yeah, they are indeed. It's cleared away by Tarkowski. Of course, he's big on his football, big on his rugby league as well, as George just kicks that ball out of play high up into the stand for a Crystal Palace throw in. Very surprised that maybe he wasn't given a yellow card for kicking that ball away.
I am as well, actually. I think that these days you've seen players getting second yellow cards for pushing the ball 2 or 3 yards in front of them with dissent, so hoofing that ball into the upper tier I think probably could have been a yellow card.
I think it might have been given actually as a free kick on that occasion by the referee, so he might have escaped one there. George, the ball is moved to Mitchell. Mitchell tries to keep it in play, tries to first time it across, but plenty of bodies in the box to aim at, but he just messes it up, comes off the right foot and then hits the left and spins out of play for a goal kick for Everton, and he puts his hand up. Doesn't seem to be too impressed. I think we will see Brendan Johnson coming onto the field. He now sports the number 22. He's in conversation and looking down at the iPad, so getting a little bit of feedback to see what maybe he can do in the final 5 minutes.
Yeah, he'll be hoping that he can have some kind of impact. McNeil, who moved from Everton to Palace, had a pretty quiet afternoon playing against Everton today, so David Moyes will be hoping it's the opposite with the former Palace man now at Everton.
Indeed. Well, it's not looking good for Paul Heckingbottom and Preston. They lost their opening Championship game and they're losing 3-0 to relegated Premier League side Wolves. As here they come then do Crystal Palace. Strand Larsen onto Gussan, strong challenge by Branthwaite, but not dealt with by Everton. They've lost possession of the ball again. Good movement onto Mitchell on the left hand side, but yet again he's still not using that right foot. Ball towards the back stick. He's looking for Strand Larsen back in there as Kalali came across, but couldn't get it down towards him. Tomiyasu, I thought, might chance his luck there and try and fire from distance, but he doesn't. Kamada on to Tomiyasu. Yasu on to Mitchell, then on to Kamada. Kamada will lift it in high towards that back stick. Header goes in, drops back down, shot comes in. Blocked though by Dewsbury Hall from Canva, and he does not seem happy at that one. That didn't break the line.
I think he's just frustrated because he probably felt, but players can tell when they've really got a good contact with the ball. It may well be that he just felt he's really put his laces through this one, and it's going to be flying into the bottom corner, but it's not to be. It's Branthwaite with the block, and it's out for a throw to Palace. Meanwhile, it's the change we mentioned for Everton, with Tyreek George being the one going off to be replaced by Brennan Johnson. That's probably going to be a battle for a starting 11 for those two on that side all season.
Yes, definitely indeed then. Johnson comes on to the field then, and off goes George. So it'll be interesting to see how Johnson plays. There's about 5 minutes or so left to go, and how he slots into this Everton side. Of course, we talked about transitioning from setups, and of course he's been at Spurs, he's been at Palace, and Nottingham Forest, now he's at Everton. So it'll be interesting to see how he could maybe also put across things that he's learned into this Everton squad as well.
Well, absolutely, and maybe he'll be feeling that it's a little bit frustrating that it's taken this long for him to get on the field, but of course he's He's obviously in a very, very competitive squad where there won't be any freebies, so he's going to have to earn his place.
Indeed. Still 2-0 here between Everton and Crystal Palace. It is still Ipswich 1, Sunderland 1, Nottingham Forest 0, Leeds 0. Of course, if you missed earlier, Hull beating Manchester United by 2 goals to 0. The 5:30 kickoff tonight is Brentford against Tottenham. Within that game, it'll be interesting to see how Tottenham play with a few of their new signings as well. They've spent big in the transfer market. So it'll be interesting to see.
They certainly have. They've spent big, and they're planning on spending more as well before the window is out. It seems, as I mentioned in the first half, any player for sale from Manchester City seems to be getting Spurs' attention right now. But this is better from Palace. Longer spell of attacking possession, but still struggling to actually get near Pickford's goal.
Yeah, indeed. And they finally lift a ball in towards the back stick, but headed away by Everton. And as I said, it was 0-0 within the game between Nottingham Forest and Leeds. Leeds have found themselves a goal up away from home then. So Leeds 1, so Nottingham Forest 0, Leeds 1 within that game then. And the goal scorer is Stack on that one. So a goal for Leeds then, as Southampton have made it 2-1 against Stoke as well. Stoke struggling then at the start of this championship season. They always look like a team that might get promoted, but then they sort of fall off towards the end of stages. And of course, Southampton could have been playing one of these two sides had they not been spying on other teams. As the ball is moved on to the left-hand side then for Everton. Around Dewsbury Hall now has possession of the ball. He lifts one in towards the far post. Only 2 bodies to aim at. It missed Beto, and he sort of looks towards and said, "Why didn't you attack that ball at that far post?"
There was an opportunity to do that. We'll see from the replay just how close he actually was. Yeah, I think Beto, if he'd have been stood at the far post, he may have had a chance, but that ball was always a little bit too fast from, I think, at the near post.
Yeah, it was Brennan Johnson as well, just in behind, but he sort of went and then stopped and then went again. So had he maybe have just continued his run, I think he was a bit afraid that he was sort of in an offside position.
I think he was, but then at the same time, maybe he should have taken a bit more of a risk there, because there was always an opportunity that the first player might not get it. But in any case, now Palace have moved the ball forward again. We've still got 3 minutes to play.
We do indeed. Of course, plus additional time. We'll have a bit of additional time with that injury to Riyadh then. Move the ball onto the right hand side, and here comes Brennan Johnson. First few touches in an Everton shirt then. Does well, escapes, but can't escape the challenge, and goes down underneath the challenge of Tommy Yasu and gets himself a free kick on this right hand side. But nice little bit of footwork. Needed a little bit of support though, and he just needed that player on the overlap, really.
Yes, he did. Nobody came from, and in the end he did very clever work there just to nutmeg Tommy Yasu, then effectively run straight into him, knowing that he was likely to get the decision. He was not known for taking free kicks or corners. He has got a decent whip on him, but there's going to be 2 standing over it now here for Everton. Looks like it's going to be the left foot to Dewsbury Hall to get this one whipped in.
Yeah, so Ipswich have got a second in their game against Sunderland. Ipswich 2, Sunderland 1 then, as Dewsbury Hall gets set. One arm raised, it's a low driven one, and it sort of spins and bounces back into the hands of Dean Henderson then. And he will comfortably just roll it out to Kamada. Kamada then on to Mitchell. Mitchell onto the left hand side. A little bit of support there from Wharton. Now to Tommy Yasu. He moves the ball onto the right hand side again. Canvo has possession of it. They're starting to push a little bit higher up now, Crystal Palace. You can see the high line of them, and that hasn't caught them out really today. It's just the fact that Everton, the pressure is what sort of caused them to collapse a little bit, as the ball is whipped in towards the back stick away by Brennan Johnson, but still inside the box. He manages to get the second header of it, but will it be dealt with by Roll? A little back heel there, but only back heels it into the path of Crystal Palace. Here come Palace again then. Delivery isn't the best one though from Pino, and comfortable for Pickford in the end.
Easy for Pickford in the end, as you said, and he doesn't waste any time either in rolling this one out to his eye, and now it's a chance for Everton to go on a counter-attack.
Yes indeed, but they just head back towards the defenders. Ball over the top, he's looking for Brennan Johnson. Can he get away from Tommy Yasu? Tommy Yasu with good covering there, just gets in behind Brennan Johnson and feels a little bit of contact as well, and has won himself a free kick on that left hand side inside of his own half. But good run from Brennan Johnson then. But Tommy Yasu just managing to keep up with his pace, and well, things have got worse for Stoke. They are now down to 10 men and have awarded Southampton a penalty, as well as West Ham had a penalty. They've missed it, so they're still 2-1 down to Charlton at the moment. But yeah, the big one for Southampton is that they do have a penalty then, and Stoke have gone down to 10 men.
The irony about that West Ham game that you mentioned as well is that Castellanos was booked in the 81st minute for diving, and then in the 93rd minute he takes a penalty and he misses it. So as I say, a big one there. We've got 7 minutes of added time in our game. Not quite sure where they've got that much time from, but there we go.
Yeah, as Southampton have converted from the penalty spot, so it will be 3-1 in that game then. And, well, I thought West Ham had maybe scored not from the penalty spot, but had maybe got a goal after it, but they had not. So it's just a little bit trigger happy on that one. So yeah, a goal for Southampton. Mubama is the man. Ingleson is the man who's been sent off for a second bookable offence then within that game. As Pino has possession of the ball on that right hand side, so it was Manning who has scored the third goal for Southampton in that game then. Ball forward for Carly. He's looking for a few options. He did have the overlap of Gussan, but didn't use him. Plays the ball to the left hand side. Preston have got a goal back against Wolves. Still 3-1 in that game though. Ball is moved to Pino. Pino delivers the ball inside the box. He was looking for Strand Larsen. Can he beat Pickford towards it? No, he can't. Pickford then takes out his own defender in Branthwaite, but Branthwaite seems alright. I think he just took one to the face there.
He did, yeah. Thankfully, Jared Branthwaite is going to be okay. He's certainly been through the wars this afternoon. He's had a couple of injury scares, but he's finishing the game actually strongly, considering how sort of uneasy he looked at the end of the first half. Well,
that was the last chance for West Ham to try and get at least a point from their game against Charlton. It has finished West Ham 1, Charlton 2. And in the Premier League now, it has finished Nottingham Forest 0, Leeds 1. The goal from Stack is the one that brings home the full 3 points then to Leeds. As the ball is delivered inside the box. He's looking for Strand Larsen. Good header. Comfortable in the end though for Pickford. Straight at him. But Strand Larsen with the opportunity to try and make sure that Everton don't keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, well, in the meantime, and as we were getting replay of that, a long ball's gone up the other end, and here's Beto now into the box. Beto's effort is blocked by Richards. Still half a chance though for Everton in midfield. Yeah,
Johnson flicks it onto the left-hand side then. Dewsbury Hall. Dewsbury Hall looking for his second. Does a few skills now to Ndiaye, and Ndiaye onto Dewsbury Hall. A little 1-2 between them. Crystal Palace have managed to get back in numbers now. Ball onto the left-hand side. Ndiaye just plays it back across to Mikalenko. Needs a little bit of support, finds Ndiaye, gets it back off of him, plays it into Dewsbury Hall. Referee has allowed advantage, I think. Yeah, he has done. Mikalenko's still down. He's now getting back up onto his feet. And Everton will quickly mop up the chance. Gussan with a heavy touch, and it's not really given much for this Crystal Palace side since coming on, but neither of any of the changes really.
Not really, no, and arguably, even never mind the changes, Palace haven't looked the same side since that first Everton goal in the first half and in the 10 minutes beforehand. But we're going to get a final change here now with Kieran Dewsbury Hall, who started the game anonymously and actually grew into the game very well. He's going off, and it's Carlos Alcaraz to replace him.
Yeah, Alcaraz then will come onto the field. Yeah, Kieran Dewsbury Hall with a wonderful finish it was for Everton's first goal, and Alcaraz will now come on in his replace just to see out the remainder of the game. But he has been very good throughout this game, has Kieran Dewsbury Hall, and I won't be surprised if definitely a man of the match will be awarded to him. But yeah, he definitely has stood out to me for one to look out for Everton.
Yes, absolutely. He certainly will be somebody that's going to be creating a huge amount of opportunities for Everton, you'd imagine, throughout the season in terms of his midfield play. But we've still got 2.5 minutes of injury time to play. It's a throw on to Everton, level with the Palace penalty area.
Yeah, it finished Blackburn 2, Middlesbrough 1.
I think Borough led in that game as well.
Yeah, they did indeed, yeah. And then Blackburn have managed to just get another 2 past them. It finished QPR 0, Bolton 0, Southampton 3, Stoke 1, of course. Stoke going down to 10 men within that game as well. Swansea against Sheffield United 0-0, and it's just finished Derby 2, Cardiff 2, as well as Crystal Palace have won themselves a free kick inside of their own area. Foul on Tomiyasu, and it will be a free kick. It has also finished in the Premier League between Ipswich and Sunderland. Ipswich 2, Sunderland 1. So Ipswich managing to get the full 3 points, and first game back in the Premier League then since being promoted to the Championship.
They'll be absolutely delighted with that. But now Campbell has been caught in possession just in front of his own box.
And has been nutmegged by Alcaraz as well. He gets the ball back. Will he have the shot? He will do, Will Alcaraz, but straight into the hands of Dean Henderson. He tried to go towards that near post, but I think maybe the better option was actually to try and deliver it to that far post, because Henderson was sort of blocked off with defenders.
He was, yeah. He just made it a little bit more easy for the goalkeeper to work out exactly where everything was and to get himself into a position. But yeah, it's not been a great afternoon for Palace, but they're still trying to finish it strongly. Yeah,
they are indeed. Will the ball be whipped inside the box? It won't be. Pino has put a man onto his backside and then just tries to lift it, just gets a little bit too much power, and that's exactly a bit like George had within the first half, where he sort of tried to bend it towards that far post but just got too much on it.
Yeah, it's all a question of timing, of where the head position, the body position. You can actually see with his ankle that he's trying to get a lot of turn, a lot of whip on that ball. Yeah, it's actually quite hard to recognise Pino initially. His hairstyle's changed quite a bit. I think he had some colour through his hair last season, grown his hair a bit long, and conversely Pickford's got a very short crew cut now, so I didn't recognise his hairstyle from a distance at first either. But it's a long ball now played towards the edge of the Palace penalty area, nodded back towards the goalkeeper. But yeah, Pierre Sarge will look at this game and say there was some positives, but I think the worry for him will be that Palace never really responded after Everton started to improve.
Yeah, indeed. Well, this is the third time they have met on the opening day of the Premier League. Palace won 2-1 in 1997 and they drew 0-0 in 2019, so they are now 1 apiece for all 3 games on the opening season, and that's a poor ball out onto the right hand side, and the referee has seen enough. He will not allow the throw-in to be taken. Then, well, chances for both teams. Crystal Palace's were definitely the ones with Nketiah and Mateta both hitting the woodwork, but I don't think there's anything to fear for Crystal Palace fans. There's definitely something there for them. For Everton, though, they take the full 3 points at the Hill Dickinson Stadium at home. It is finished here. Everton 3, Everton 2, Crystal Palace 0.